What's up, everyone? Today we're going to go ahead and bust a myth, and that is about dynos. I don't know what's going on and why the hipsters are taking over, but there's content creators turning around saying the only reason why you're going to go on a dyno is to inflate your numbers, or my butt dyno is all I need, or I can tune it with a screwdriver. So it looks like the weather may cooperate, but I still feel like it's going to choose violence. We moved over here because it was just too bright over there. Although, looks like the clouds are already turning gray again. Just can't win. Anyways, what we have is some data, and I'll put some screenshots up for you guys so you also can see what I see, because it's still just glare on the screen. Anyways, the first day was pretty rough, and you have to remember, you get a base map, and you put it in, and it's no different than going to the store and buying a carburetor and slapping it on your car. It will get you from point A to point B. Don't expect it to work miracles and run down the track like a bat out of hell. You know? That type of thing. So, our first day was really rough. We just finished putting the O2 sensors on, and I took it to the track. And you'll see some of the video footage from that. The numbers were trash, just total garbage. Our AFR from the second pass, because the first pass was just bad. Our second pass was not better, much better. I did change some of the mass air pressure corrections, and so we were still able to actually get an actionable pass. I was at least able to get it past only being able to run 75% throttle. It just, instead of falling completely on its face, it ran a lambda value, or a fuel air ratio of 9. Like, not a lambda value of 9, an air fuel ratio of 9. And then the third pass wasn't much better at a 9.5. Garbage. The day was really just a waste. Got to hang out with some people. It was a lot of fun, but trying to get numbers, garbage. I plugged in the learn function of the O2 sensor, but I drove it for like 40 minutes. You can't expect that to run and do miracles for you. I was just hoping it would be a little bit closer, so that when I ran it, I was able to correct it, and just, it was way off. There was more reasons why it was off than just the base map being off. And again, it's not the base map's fault. The base map did its job. It can drive. Realistically, you should drive it to the tuner, or at least trailer it to the tuner and have them correct it. Again, time crunch. We take hammer. We blunt force fix. That type of things. Yeah. So after that wonderful mess, I took it, drove it out to Bangington, Vermont, and then I drove it down to New Lebanon. I ended up driving it for like 3.5, 4 hours the following Monday, and I was able to correct it to the point where the numbers were closer to, no, not the following Monday, the Thursday after. So the day after the drag strip, I took it out on the road and was able to get it closer. I mean, the map was way off, but I got it to the point where it drove fairly well. Wide open throttle was at approximately like 10.5. was pretty bad. But at least it was able to drive. It was lethargic, but at least it was able to go full throttle and, you know, run some numbers. And this is what we actually get from that after another few days of doing exactly that and getting into the throttle, letting it go into high RPMs, you know, driving it for a certain distance at high RPMs. The engine didn't like it, but, you know, 240,000 miles on the engine, you got to give this thing credit. These engines are pretty reliable, even if you're abusing the living snot out of it. So our first actionable data at the drag strip is right here. This is the second run on the second day, because the first run on the second day, the line lock from Hurst decided to stay locked. I think my line lock did end up sticking, I don't know. Stock! Hurst line lock stock! But our second run, no heating of the tires other than the actual burnout, which, by the way, does a burnout way better without a line lock than it did without the supercharger. Holy crap. I don't know if you need a line lock anymore. I still want one, though. The 11.3 air-fuel ratio got us around... Sorry, yeah. It got us a much happier engine. It was still too rich, and it was fairly lethargic at a really atrocious time. I think it was 15.3. So it's actually over a second slower than what it was without it. But again, it was running way too rich. Now, after that day, I was like, okay, let's take it off and figure out what's going on. I called up Haltech, because that's one of the cool things that you get with Haltech is they'll walk you through a lot of things. And they actually logged in, and there was a few issues with the actual the software. The software wasn't correct. So our actual tuning software, there were settings in it that weren't right, and they were able to go through. They made the oscilloscope wasn't working. Like a lot of little things needed to be tweaked. So he went in, he corrected them, and he was like, okay, one of the other things you may want to try is maybe your fuel injectors aren't as, you know, they told you from the factory. So again, our fuel injectors are 850cc injectors, and so he dropped it down to 820, and he said, go take it for a ride and see what it does. Now, after 2 weeks of going through and trying to get things tuned correctly, nothing was scaling right. Everything was a little wonky. Everything scaled right off the bat. Richer, but everything scaled in a sense that, or in a way that made sense that it would go the opposite way. So on the road, I just every so often I would change it from, pull over, stop, change it from 850 or 820 up to 860, then 880, then 900. I got it up to 930, and then where in this, the second run on the first day, the fuel O2 short-term trim was like 25% at high-end RPM. Now we're looking at a 0.5. And that thing woke up like me after my second or third cup of coffee. Before, it was like me after Thanksgiving. Like it was lethargic, not really happy, fat and happy. Not happy, but fat. Now it was ready to run a freaking marathon, and that's where we're at right now. And as long as the sun stays out long enough, we can take it to the track today. Otherwise, we're gonna have to wait for actual drag racing event coming up. We had a deadline of October 20. Well, yeah, probably like a few weeks ago to get this thing put together so we can start tuning it. Because anyone that says, "Oh, I'm just going to go to a race event," I'm confident in my car. I haven't driven it in 2 years. I've done nothing to the car in 2 years except for maybe I changed this or that. Maybe I went from an automatic transmission to a manual transmission or vice versa. But I don't need a test and tune. I don't. That's fine. And think you're going to have a good time. You need a test and tune. You need to get it right before trying to put numbers down. You're just not going to have a good time. So we needed a period of time to get the car dialed in before taking it to the race. And so we skipped on a few things. This was a big project. There was a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of custom parts. We switched, like I said, from a distributor to coil and plug. We have a whole wiring harness made by Cartoon New Zealand. Great wiring harness. The thing looks so. We'll take a look at it. Come here. I'll take you off this. So we have this awesome looking wiring harness. Absolutely beautiful. Well made. Everything's tidy. Everything's clean. And, it has a home. We don't have wires strewn everywhere. You can see he even put a grommet on here so it went into the factory hole. We have our O2 sensors. We have our vacuum. And we have our actual wiring harness or loom, whatever you want to call it. And, this is our regulator, and again, factory. That's an issue. We are going to upgrade it, but one of the things that we skimped on, and just for time, was to let's get you back over here. Was to skip upgrading the fuel lines as well as not only the lines themselves but the size. Over the winter we're going to go and upgrade the fuel line size and run AN fittings from it. We're also going to put a fuel cooler in it. And we also don't have a heat exchanger. In a matter of just trying to get things done as quick as possible for our deadline, that leaves a lot of horsepower on the table. We're running 224 degree temperatures, 224 degree temperatures, 230 at full wide open throttle, supercharger pumping 13 to 14 psi. So they should take 80 to 100 degrees, maybe a little bit more, depending on. I have an idea for putting a reservoir in there so I can put ice in the actual reservoir, and run that with some wetter water or water wetter. I don't know. We're going to play with trying to get more power with different setups for the reservoir. I have an idea of putting it where the old ABS system used to be. We're going to cross that bridge next year. So we're leaving horsepower, a lot of horsepower on the table, but I figure what we'll end up doing is we have another engine in the basement. We'll put some really gnarly studs in it. We'll put the cooler on it, and we'll run a 60 millimeter pulley instead of the 80 millimeter pulley, aiming for over 20 psi of pressure. So it's going to be a screamer. Anyways, we've kind of gotten off track on it, but you know what I'm saying here is don't listen to them. It's really important to be able to run cars on the dyno. It's not just about the numbers. It's not about the numbers of the horsepower. That's just a cool little benefit. Especially if you're trying to... The numbers do matter if you're trying to build a car around an engine. It'd be nice to know what you're producing. Not just assume what you're producing. Because anyone that has ever told me how much horsepower the car is making, and it's a definitive horsepower, and they've never dynoed it, I just assume it's half. Because maybe they're close, but realistically, come on. Your butt dyno's not that good. Crucify me in the comment section. I dare you. Do it. Your butt dyno sucks. It's just like a state trooper telling you, oh, I can tell you how fast you're going because my eyes is calibrated for your speed. Come on. I don't care. Take it somewhere else. Take it in the comment section. Roast me. I don't care. And, that's it. That's all I have. Dynos are great. Dyno numbers are awesome because it's real numbers. Can you go through and alter your corrections so that, the corrections are there for a reason. Say you're much higher on a mountain. I'm like 1,000 feet above sea level. Your dyno numbers are going to be different than a person at Death Valley. So sure, you can do corrections, and there are people out there that will take the corrections and have liberty with the corrections, if you know what I mean. They will manipulate it. There are people out there that will manipulate their numbers so that they have a piece of paper. When they run that same engine at the track, it doesn't matter. The quarter mile is not going to lie to you. You can make a dyno lie. That's true. I'm not trying to dispute that. There are people that do it. But you have honest people. When we ran the engine up at Nick's, he didn't do a dishonest alteration of the corrections. And most dyno operators, I would expect and I would hope, would have that same kind of honesty. So, not all, just that's it. You know, I've ranted enough on it. This was, use a dyno, guys. Enjoy some more drag racing. Until next time, remember, keep your shiny side up, and God bless.